Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Line Plans. Today is going to be a very fun video. It's not going to be planner related, not directly. Today we're actually going to be talking about books. As most of you well aware, in the past month I have gone down this deep rabbit hole of beginning to read and consuming different genre of books. So I thought that because so many of you have asked me to just kind of do a quick little review of some of the books that I have read and kind of give some recommendations of what's coming up for the month of June. So I thought, why not just actually sit down, get cozy, and kind of talk about books and see how we do. So if this is the first time that we're meeting, well, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with me. My name is Meshi and I'm the person behind Line Plans. We talk a couple of times a week on this channel, anything and everything, planning, stationery, journaling, and now books. So if you kind of wanted to see what I have read for the month of May and what's kind of coming up for the month of June, then just stay tuned and let's just dive right in. Totally unplanned. I was not planning on becoming a little bookworm, but here we are having this conversation. So I wanted to kind of break things down into a few different categories, only because some of the books, first of all, I realized throughout the month of the end of April leading into May that the way that I read, I'm very much a mood reader. So I have to be in the right mood to be able to consume that type of book, if that makes sense. So in the evenings, I would read something like a fantasy or like a romance novel. In the mornings, I would read more like a personal development book. And that if I'm going to be reading in the afternoon or early evening, then that would be something more lighthearted. So because of that, I actually read multiple books at the same time, because sometimes I'm just literally just not in a mood to read that particular book. Hopefully that makes sense. So I wanted to start out with first just a quick little recap and review of what I read from, I'm counting this from the very end of April leading up to today, of like what I've actually completed and what I've actually read. So first up, we have Conversation with Friends. This was very popular and I was really looking forward to reading this. I've seen someone recommending this online. I started out with this guy and I had such high hopes for this and I thought that this would be like the greatest thing. Honestly, now having read like significantly better books than this is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. It was fine. Honestly, I couldn't get behind the characters. They weren't really likable in my opinion. And honestly, some of the stuff that they were doing, it was just so unethical. So it was fine. It's about it's an easy read. So if you're kind of looking to kind of get into reading, then this would be really great. It's an easy to consume book. You will get through it relatively quickly. Like, it's not a very thick book. But would I recommend it? Probably not. It was kind of a flop for me. So this would be maybe like a 3-star. Next up, I moved into probably one of the best books that I've read so far. This is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Honestly, I love the writing style. I really loved how we're taking glamorization out of Hollywood. I'm going to tell you what I loved and what I really didn't like. So hopefully that will help you without giving you any spoilers. I really loved all of the different things that we have kind of touched on of the glamorization of Hollywood, of having secrets, of basically putting up with abuse, of normalizing women in power. I loved all of that. I really loved, ambition and hunger for fame and power. It was very fantastic. But then also, it's sort of like the entire book. Once you kind of read Seven Husbands, you're kind of thinking that the book is actually going to be about the 7 relationships, but it really isn't. It's more about the life of Evelyn Hugo. If you're not familiar, I would highly, highly recommend it. It also kind of gives you a glimpse into hidden relationships and how that actually shapes our decisions moving forward. And I never actually got a more intimate glimpse into complicated relationships until I read this book. So even today, it kind of makes me think of what is deep love, just because I've seen a glimpse of it through this book. So for that reason, without actually spoiling anything for you, I would highly, highly recommend it. Absolute 5-star. Next up, I moved into I'm going to briefly mention this because I didn't finish this. I moved into Verity by Colleen Hoover. I knew that Colleen Hoover's books are highly hyped up, very hyped up on Book Talk, also on Instagram and on YouTube. So I was really excited to kind of get started going down the rabbit hole of Colleen Hoover books. And to me, this was a flop. Like, as you can tell, I didn't finish this. I'm about 100 and, I don't even know, 100 and whatever, 110 pages in. To me, this got really dark really quickly. And I just, honestly, I just didn't have the stomach for it. It was well written. Like, the storyline was fine. It didn't make too much of a sense, and it just got really dark really quickly. So I just kind of abandoned it. Some of you that really love, I don't even know who I would recommend this to. Like, if you love mystery, it's not that even it was mystery. It was just dark. That's why I didn't like it, because it just, check the triggers. Certain triggers are in there of you know, self-inflicted abuse and things like that. So if that's a trigger for you, you're probably not going to enjoy that book. Next up, let's go into something that's very, very controversial, and it's becoming a movie as we speak, actually. It Ends With Us. First of all, I bought the wrong one. I bought the second edition that It Starts With Us, me thinking that, oh, well, that's the first book because it starts, right? No. It Ends With Us is the first edition of that series. The second, the continuation, is It Starts With Us. It's so backwards. It's so backwards. So I picked this up, was very excited. Again, it was fine. And when I say it was fine, I would give this maybe like a 4-star. Overall, a very easy read. It's a very heavy topic that she kind of covers. Check the trigger warnings on this one as well. There is domestic abuse. There is violence. To me, that wasn't the issue. To me, it felt like, here's what this has done for me. This book has managed to allow me to come full circle of how to break generational trauma. And for that reason, I really, really enjoyed it. Was I in love with the characters? Not really. I thought that it was just too much of a contrast between, to me, there was just like too many double standards that was kind of going throughout the book, of too many assumptions that were made about certain characters. So I wasn't really a huge fan of like some of those twists. I really enjoyed the plot twist towards the end. And you kind of need to read all the way through the end until you get to a point when you understand what the actual message, the underlying message was that she was trying to convey. Again, I like her reading style, so would I pick up another book by Colleen Hoover? Yeah, I probably would. It wouldn't be my first like top choice as far as authors are concerned, but it was fine. So you would probably enjoy it. Will I read the second edition? Yes. Just not yet. I didn't put her next book onto my reading list for June. I think I will hop back in July. And let's move on to the next 3. These are fairly recent. So let's start with Anna Huang and Twisted Love. I want to make fun of this main character so hard. If you're a European, if you're from Europe, and you lived in Europe, so I'm not talking about like your parents are from Europe and you're actually living in North America. No. You are from Europe. You lived in, the main character is from Ukraine, and like toxic masculinity to the T. But it's like, the way that it's described is fantastic. I really love Anna's writing style. I find it very easy to consume. I actually read this relatively quickly. Basically, when I tell you that I couldn't get behind that really strong masculine character because I saw through the insecurity that he was portraying. Does that make sense? So because of that, I couldn't get to a point where I would swoon over this main character. I really liked the little connection that he had with the girl. So I liked the dynamic between Ava and Alex. I thought that they would make a cute couple. I love all of that. But every single time that the thought process of Alex was explained, legitimately, all I could think about is pretty much every single guy in Hungary. That's all I could think about, because it was just so prevalent in Europe while I was growing up and while I was dating in Hungary, that when I kind of read this, it kind of gave me a little bit of a trip down memory lane. You may or may not have that. You might just look at it from, obviously you're not going to have that if you're not from Europe and you never lived through that, but that's the vibe that I got. I do have the second installment of the series, and we're actually adding it to the list for June. And then last two, Atomic Habits. I have Atomic Habits. I've had this for a while, and I decided that I wanted to read something very easy to consume first thing in the morning. I wanted to be able to kind of get through a lot of personal development books. This one is fantastic. I have tons of notes all throughout the book. I am annotating at least some of it. Very useful, very practical, very like super left brain, like nothing. It's not about the fluff. It's very much about how can you become a lot more productive. So it's a fantastic book. I would highly, highly recommend it. If you run a business, if you do anything where productivity is like on your top priority and you wanted to kind of do a little bit of brain hacking, I think that you would really enjoy this. I think I have, as of right now, I have like the last two little, like a few pages left. So this will be finished in June. No, in May. This will be finished this month. And the last one, I didn't even think I would want to include this, but I'm about more than halfway in. So this is also going to make it into June's reading list. Right now I'm about 60% done with Hookline and Sinker. It's cute. That's all I'm going to give it. It's very cute. If you want like a quick, easy read, like a little cute little romance novel, part of me was kind of, I wasn't cringing. I think that the writing style is great. Some of the way that they're kind of talking, it gets kind of weird. So it's not Anna Huang. Let's just say that. But it's fine. So, like a lot of people love this book. A lot of people really love Tessa Bailey. I'm not sure if I'm completely behind her just yet, so I will probably read at least another book from her. Really cute storyline. You would probably love, you would probably really love like the friendship to lovers trope if that's your vibe. It's a very easy summer read. So for that, I'm not even going to rate this just yet because I want to get to the other like 40% of the book so I can kind of give it a proper review. So we will revisit this next month. Now let's talk about what's actually coming up for the month of June. So the big things, well, right now I already kind of started reading this. Oh, and I forgot to include the Court of Thorns and of Roses. I also finished that, highly recommend it. And that kind of brings me into June. So I do have the Court of Mist and Fury. I already started. I'm maybe about 10% in, not even. It's going to be a really thick one. I suspect that this will take me probably the full month to read just because it's like, I think 600 pages. The first one was a little over 400 pages, so we'll see how that one goes. But if you love fantasy, if you love like fairies and the fae, you would probably really enjoy this. I mean, Sarah J. Maas does a fantastic job at kind of explaining and bringing you into that world. So I ended up buying the full series because I wanted to kind of be swept away for a little bit longer. So next up, we have King of Wrath. I also started this already. That's why I'm not really including this in June. We're about maybe 10%, 15% in. This is the King of Wrath. This is also a series by Anna Huang, and this is the first of the installment. The second two are already out. No, I think the second one is out, and then the third one is coming out in October. So I wanted to kind of start on a brand new series. It's fantastic. It's very easy to read. Again, right now we're looking at a billionaire Dante Russo and an ambitious and elegant Vivian Lau. So basically you're hippity hopping back and forth between the two characters. True enemies to lovers trope is in here, and it's so good. It's so easy to consume. You don't know who you kind of want to vouch for. King of Wrath, I would highly recommend it. It's quick paced. It's very easy to read. Again, it doesn't have like too many triggers in there, which is fantastic. So for that reason, it's staying on the island. Now let's talk about I also have the second part of the Twisted series. So I have Twisted Games, which is just a continuation of Twisted Love. But with each book, you kind of examine different couples that you were kind of introduced to in the first book. You don't necessarily need to read the first book because you get enough background on the second one of each character anyway. But if you want, I mean, I kind of like that I start the series and I just kind of finish it. But it's totally up to you. So we have Twisted Games. Next up, Emily Henry's brand new book, and I heard a lot about this. Oh, and I forgot to actually include, I also read The Book Lovers by Emily Henry. That was another book that, again, highly recommended, especially if you love reading, if you love books. It was an easy read, so therefore I needed to go back down to Emily Henry's world. So we have The Happy Place. This is her recent release that was just released, and I honestly, I cannot wait to just kind of take the kids to the pool and just start reading it. These are, I have like 3 more books that are sort of a maybe, see if I actually have time for it. The first one is Love and Other Words. I heard so many good things about this and I really wanted to see it for myself. I'm not sure if I'm going to get enough time to actually finish it. I will at least get it started, and that might actually flicker over to July, but at least it's on the list. You know what I'm going to say? Next up, I wanted to talk about another very popular series, Magnolia Parks. It's sort of a love-hate relationship for a lot of you based on just the reviews that I have heard about it. So naturally, I needed to dive in. I'm hoping to actually get started in June. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a good one. And I don't know too much about it. I know that it's sort of like, I'm kind of thinking that it's sort of like Gossip Girl. I'm hoping it's going to be similar to Gossip Girl, because if it is, then I think that we're going to be hooked. Next up, this is also fairly new. We have A Flicker in the Dark. I have this from the library, and this one is now we're kind of switching. We're switching genres a little bit, because now we have quite a few that are in the romance category. We have a couple that are more in the fantasy, and I wanted to have at least one mystery. So this one is about this girl where a few girls go missing, and I believe that's what it is. Yes, so it's about this girl and her dad ends up murdering a couple of the girls in their town, and then the daughter finds out, and then now the daughter is 20 years later, she's a psychologist, and then something sort of similar is starting to happen again. So she's getting suspicious if it's her dad again, or like if something else is going on. So I think that this is going to be a good one. It doesn't seem very thick, so we might be okay. Yeah, it's about 350 pages, but I heard good things about it, so I kind of wanted to give it a go. And then for personal development, this is the last one. I'm not even sure if I have fully decided on this just yet. We might actually switch this to Resilient. But for now, I'm going to say that it's going to be The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. I started reading this a little while ago, but honestly, I'm not sure how I liked it, because there's so many of like these Twitter quotes in there and whatever. And sometimes when I'm reading, I don't want your Twitter quote. Do you know what I mean? Like it literally has like these Twitter update, whatever. But maybe I think that they kind of added that in just to kind of give context to like day-to-day situations of how you would apply this law or this rule. But even like on the back of it, you can kind of see that there is a bunch of like these, I don't know, like some of them look like they're just like social media updates. Some of them are from Facebook, some of them are from Twitter. So I don't know, we'll see how this one goes. I'm gonna give it a chapter a day, and then honestly I just want to be able to just kind of finish it and see if I can take any value out of it. But honestly, if this is terrible, I'm happy to just swap over to a different book within like the personal development like genre. It's a lot, I know, you guys, it's a lot. This is all I wanted to share with you. And I mean, honestly, I could probably actually start a brand new series that I have in the back of my mind, because I do have The Cruel Prince as well. I ended up buying The Cruel Prince because I wanted the full series, and I do have the other 2 that kind of fall into that series. So that's also waiting for me. So if any of these are not really working out, then I'm happy to like hop over I'm happy to abandon a book if it's terrible. That's kind of my thing. So this is all I have for you. I would love to know from you. Let me know, and here's your question of the day. Let me know what is one thing that you're looking forward to reading for the month of June, if you have picked any books, and what was something that was absolutely awesome that blew you out of the water that you could not put down. Because I think that once we kind of start this conversation, then we can kind of start building our own TBR from each other's recommendation. This is all I have for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and for watching. I so appreciate you. If you love books, by the way, I wanted to kind of briefly mention that if you love books and if you love reading and you wanted to be part of a book club, one of my tiers on Patreon is actually a book club where we get together each month and we kind of talk about what we loved about that book, what was not really working. So if you wanted to kind of check that out, I will leave the link down in the description so you can take a look. But in the meanwhile, keep reading, keep journaling, keep planning, doing all the things, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye.
It's my time.